great to see you guys. I hope you are all having a fantastic day. I'm particularly stoked because BMW has dropped off the 2021 BMW M4 competition for a week for me to review, and I am so excited to share my thoughts on this car with you guys. Does it live up to the legendary BMW M3s and M4s before it? Today, we're gonna find out just that. The release of a new BMW M car is always special, particularly when it's a new M3 or M4. This is the 6th generation of the M3, and in this case, it's the M4, and it's dubbed the G80. So what's new for 2021? Well, practically everything. For one, this is the most powerful BMW M3 and M4 of all time. It comes in two different variants, the base M4 and the competition. The biggest difference between the two cars is the transmission. This is the M4 competition, and it comes only available with an 8-speed automatic called the M-Steptronic. Now, if you get the base model M4, the non-competition, you can actually get it with a 6-speed manual, and I love that. As auto manufacturers are ditching manual transmissions left and right, BMW has stayed true to its enthusiast roots and offered the base M4 with a standard 6-speed manual transmission. The competition variant is also more powerful. You get 30 more horsepower and 73 additional pound-feet of torque. Checking out the engine, it's a 3-liter twin-turbocharged inline-6 that in competition form makes a monstrous 503 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That means the BMW M4 competition can rocket to 60 in 3.8 seconds and to a top speed of 180 miles an hour. I do have to say though, when you pop the hood, I feel like they could have done a cooler job with this plastic engine cover. It just feels a little bit lackluster for a BMW M car. Here we are up close and personal with what has to be the most controversial design element of any modern day car recently, those massive front grills. Now I have to say, in pictures and in videos, before actually seeing this car in person, I thought BMW messed up the M3 and the M4, but in person, it looks a heck of a lot better. I'm not fully in love with the way the front of the car looks, but it's growing on me slowly, and I think in a couple of years, people are going to adopt and enjoy the front end design. But ignoring the kidney grills, the lower part of the front fascia and the headlights are fantastic. This car looks absolutely menacing from the front. We've also got bigger grills because we've got a more powerful engine. It needs more air for the engine and it needs more cooling. But check out the lower portion of the front fascia finished in carbon fiber for those intake ducts. And then we've got venting around the sides to help reduce turbulent airflow in the front wheel wells. I think it looks great. And one of my favorite design features of the new M4 is the hood. These little indents on the hood itself look so aggressive, something like you'd see in an aftermarket carbon fiber hood, but it's from the factory. And those aggressive cut lines continue over the roof of the car, where you've got a standard carbon fiber reinforced plastic roof to lower the center of gravity, with these two really cool fins to improve aerodynamics and airflow. The side profile of the new M4 has a very athletic look to it, with its widened flared fenders and body line cuts. We've got the signature kind of side vent on the M4 here, but in this case, it's just stuck on as a design element. It doesn't actually have any functionality to it, which I wish it did. Whereas the standard M4 gets 18s in the front and 19s in the rear, the M4 competition comes with some of the coolest wheels in the business. 19s up front and 20s in the rear. The design is so good, there's almost zero reason to put aftermarket wheels on the new BMW M4 competition. You'll notice the gold calipers. That signifies that this has the optional $8,150 carbon ceramic brakes. Honestly though, unless you're going to the track all the time, I think you can skip the carbon ceramic brakes and save a bit of money. And for the first time, you can actually get no cost option, different color calipers. You can make them red or black if you want on the standard rotors. At the rear of the M4 competition, we've got this beautiful carbon fiber spoiler, pretty LED taillights, and this absolutely massive carbon fiber rear diffuser that's surrounding those beautiful quad exhaust tips. So what does it sound like? Well, let's find out. Hopping on the inside of the M4 competition, and it is covered in beautiful leather and carbon fiber throughout. It honestly feels a lot more upscale than you'd expect from a BMW M3 or M4. One of the best parts of the M4's interior is this gorgeous steering wheel. Not only does it have this beautiful carbon fiber, but it feels great in your hands and gives you unbelievable control over the M4. We've also got these red customizable buttons that you can configure different driving modes. So let's say we want M1 to be the most aggressive driving mode with traction control off and everything in Sport Plus mode. And maybe M2 is our relaxing cruising around town mode where everything is in comfort. We've also got the best paddles ever to be fitted to a BMW M car. They're massive, they're carbon fiber, they feel great in actuation, and they even have these little tactile red dots on the back to make pulling the paddles that much more special. Next, let's move on to the seats. These are the standard seats, although they have upgraded leather, and to me, they look a little bit boring and don't hold you in place quite as much as I would like. They are, however, extremely comfortable. If I were to get an M4 competition, I'd spec it with the optional $3,800 M Carbon bucket seats. They look absolutely incredible. So good that even if they're much less comfortable, I would still want them in the car because they are that cool looking. We've also got some cool creature comforts as well. Underneath this beautiful piece of carbon fiber is a wireless charger with a USB port. In here, we've got a USB-C charging port, good sized glove box as well, a fully digital and touchscreen infotainment system that works very, very well actually. You can control it via touch or down here with this control panel. But my favorite part is how customizable the driving experience is right here. So here we've got the button that can turn the valves on and off for the exhaust. I don't know why you'd ever want it off, but just in case. Then we'll go to M mode. Check out what happens to the instrument cluster. When I put it into M mode, it becomes way more driver focused. Non-M mode, M mode. That is freaking cool, especially the dual kind of fighter jet style tachometer. Then if you press and hold M mode, it puts it into track mode, which actually shuts off this screen, turns off your music, and fully dedicates the experience to the driver. We'll go ahead and click setup, and on the screen pops up the ability to do either via touchscreen or this controller here, change the engine, chassis, steering, and brake response independently from one another. So you can touch on the screen, put the chassis in Sport or Comfort. We'll leave it in Sport Plus, but I love the availability of changing the brake feel. So if you think the brakes are a little bit too touchy, you can put it in Comfort mode. You don't want to scare your passengers with jerky braking, or you can put it in Sport mode so you have to apply a little bit less brakes before they come on. And then we even have, and this is one of the craziest features, if we go ahead and press and hold the traction control button, we've got a 10-stage traction control. How crazy is that? And if that's not enough for you, if you press and hold the traction control button to turn it off, up on the screen prompts something called the M Drift Analyzer. We'll go ahead and start the M Drift Analyzer, and in this setting, this car will actually evaluate and give you a rating from 1 to 5 stars on how good your drifting abilities are. That's right, like in Forza, where it rates your drifts, your BMW M4 competition will literally tell you how good you are at drifting and help you improve. That is awesome. For the heck of it, I've crammed myself into the back of the M4, and I have to say the leg room is actually fantastic. I've got plenty of room at 5'11". Now, the roofline slopes, which makes the exterior look a lot cooler than it would otherwise, so headroom isn't the best. My head is definitely slammed into the roof, but if you're shorter than 5'9", you could spend serious time back here, and if you've got kids, they'd find this plenty comfortable. All right, now it's time to show you guys what this bad boy is like to drive. So, how is the new M4 competition to drive? Well, it is absolutely brilliant. You know, one of the biggest question marks about this car, other than that front grille, was the choice of putting in an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's a ZF automatic transmission that BMW has done some tweaks on. They call it the M-Steptronic unit. And the biggest reason for going for this is to prep the car for the upcoming all-wheel drive, variable all-wheel drive version. So you know how on the M5 you can switch switch it from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive? Well, we're finally getting that in the M3 and M4 competition. So you get the best of both worlds, a quick car off the line because of the all-wheel drive, or an absolute drift machine when you turn everything off and put it into rear-wheel drive mode. But I gotta say, this transmission is so much better than I was anticipating. Let's go ahead and put it into full comfort mode. This car puddles along with ease. You could drive it anywhere, every single day, to the shop. Your mom could drive it, your grandmother could drive it. It's easy, it's comfortable, it's quiet inside the interior, and the shifts happen so seamlessly you don't really even feel them at all. But that's not what the M4 competition is all about. So we'll click the M2 button, which I have set up for everything in Sport and Sport Plus mode, flick some downshifts, and bring up the pace a little bit. So I was worried that the responsiveness of the paddles with the transmission would be a bit slow. Some cars with automatics suffer from that, and it makes the driving experience nowhere near as fun. But this car, the second you click the beautiful feeling paddles with their tactile circles on the back, you've got an upshift. The second you click that downshift paddle, it downshifts. Now, the downshifts aren't quite as aggressive. They don't have that engine braking mechanical feel or really intense fuel cutoff like on the F80 generation, but they happen razor quick. And I gotta say, this transmission is plenty good, especially due to the fact that it allows for that all-wheel drive system coming up. Whew. I find myself, when I'm driving the car, looking mostly at the heads-up display. It's such a beautiful unit when you have it configured in the right mode. This horizontal tachometer display, you don't have to look down at all. You can always be focused on the road, looking out over that hood. You know, despite the fact that this car weighs 3,880 pounds, which is a decent size for a sports car, it feels so much lighter than that. I'm serious, I can't even imagine the magic that goes on behind the scenes with BMW engineering to get this car to feel the way it does with this curb weight. But man, they did a brilliant job. Not only does the wheel feel great in your hands, the responsiveness when you're in the right driving modes is unbelievable. It's instant response. You can place the car on the road like a laser. Turn-in is brilliant, and the chassis is so stable. And the levels of mechanical grip in this car are actually unbelievable. You think you can't go any faster, and you push it a little bit harder and a little bit harder, and the car still grips. And that's what's so fun about this M3. It pushes you to go faster and faster in a controlled environment. Once you start to lose traction, it's very, very predictable. It doesn't all of a sudden kick the rear end out and completely lose it. Everything just feels right and balanced in this car. There is absolutely no body roll, which is amazing because the car actually rides over bumps really, really well, even with the chassis in Sport Plus mode. This road I'm on right now isn't the smoothest. Honestly, I wish they'd repave it, but it gives a really good test of cars' adaptive suspensions to see how they can handle the bumps in the road. And the M4 competition passes with flying colors. Despite the fact that there are bumps everywhere and uneven surfaces, the suspension eats them up, keeping all four wheels on the ground at all times for maximum traction, and allows you to have the absolute time of your life behind the wheel of this. Brake feel is great as well. What's really cool is you can actually customize the intensity and the responsiveness of the brakes in the driving mode selection. I've never seen that before, so you can make the brakes respond a little bit slower so it's more comfortable, not jarring to your passengers, so you're not smashing on the brakes. Or if you're going for a spirited drive, you can put the brakes into sport mode and the response is phenomenal. But overall, I mean, I'm saying it again, for a car that weighs this much with an automatic transmission, everyone was wondering, oh no, did they ruin the M3 and the M4? But honestly, they made the car better. This is one of the best handling cars BMW has ever made. And I mean that seriously. Oh my gosh. And it is fast. That 480 pound-feet of torque comes on so smoothly. They're doing such a good job nowadays of making cars that have twin turbos have a linear power band. I mean, this car picks up speed really quick in the low RPMs, more so than a naturally aspirated car would, but it doesn't have that crazy surge of power at the top end when the turbos spool that makes the car kind of feel off balance and uneasy like the F80 did. This is just smooth and seamless at all times. Now, let's talk about the exhaust note, shall we? Oh, this car puts a smile on my face every second I'm behind the wheel. Oh my gosh. So, the exhaust note. I'm gonna be honest, the last generation M4, the F80, I wasn't really a big fan of the way it sounded. It kind of had too many artificial pops for me, and the between shift sound was, for lack of a better word, a little bit too much like a fart. Especially compared to the predecessor, the E92 M3, which was one of the best sounding BMWs of all time. Now, the G80 generation actually seems like it takes a step backwards in the lineage and borrows some sound elements from the E46 M3. We've got this massive induction noise coming from the engine. It's less crazy exhaust note and more pure, raw, mechanical, air-sucking, and it just sounds good. And then we've got that hint of exhaust in the back. It's got a couple of burbles here and there when you let off the gas. But I think they've done a great job of making this inline six sound good. As good as it can for having turbos. And definitely an improvement over the F80. Sure, we do have fake exhaust engine notes pumping into the cabin, but that's the way of the future, and honestly, still sounds good, even though some of it's fake. Woo! Visibility out of the front is phenomenal. It's really easy to place this car out on the road. You don't have a ton of blind spots, to be honest. Been pushing this car for a while now. Carbon ceramic brakes aren't fading whatsoever. Just pure performance the whole time. Woo-hoo-hoo! We've also got some advanced safety features as well. We've got blind spot monitoring. We've got active lane keep assist. It's pretty cool that we're getting all this advanced technology in what used to be just all about the driving experience, but they haven't gotten rid of that feel. This car still feels like it's meant to be driven quickly at all times, but you get the added safety benefits and you get some of the added benefits of modern day technology that make this car truly, truly special. I'm impressed. You know, it's a new M4. It's gotta be good, but this is a lot better than I was expecting. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. In the next video, I'm gonna have a full point of view drive showing you what it's like to drive the M4 from the driver's seat. All right, look forward to seeing you next video.